What's up, water cooler? We are here for episode 8 of Water Cooler Talks on Manufacturing and Technology. Our goal, we're making manufacturing and technology as cool as my Uncle Teddy. Michael.
Hey, wait. Who's Uncle Teddy?
Just kidding. That's my dad's co-worker from way back. But
love it.
He's a cool
Tristan,
dude.
How are you doing? You just got back from a fun trip.
Always, man. I mean, Red Sox, Yankees, Fenway Park. Can't beat it.
Wow. Thanks for the invite. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. You got a Fenway joke for us, or any?
I thought I had a good joke about yoga, but it was a bit of a stretch, so I won't.
Oh gosh, that's terrible. That's terrible.
It is. But let's have some fun because books are not fun. But
that's right.
There.
That's right. So today we have a guest, and his name is Garrett Wales. Welcome to the building.
Garrett, what's going on?
What's up, y'all?
How are you doing?
Doing well this morning.
You got some fascinating stuff behind you. What's the biggest deer you've ever gotten?
So it's that one. That's a nice little 12-pointer, well over 200 pounds.
Nice.
Also the first one I ever shot, so set the bar high right off the bat.
Mule?
It's a little whitetail from middle of nowhere, Oklahoma.
Nice.
Right.
There's good hunting way out in the middle of nowhere, and there's a lot of middle of nowhere Oklahoma, and there's really good deer out there.
Yeah. One time I visited Oklahoma State to watch Georgia lose, but it was a good trip. Good times back then. Probably when you were there, Garrett.
I was there for a lot of years. So it was while I was there.
Me too. I am a doctor by years, not education.
Oh, man. Well, Garrett, thanks for joining us today. Garrett, just start us off. Give us the elevator pitch on what you do for work. I actually have no clue, so hit me with it.
All right. So my title is Senior Automation Engineer, which is super vague. Nobody gets what that is. But I'm a SCADA guy. So SCADA stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. So I'm responsible for collecting data in the field. So that's going to be from field devices on oil wells or well sites, including our RTUs out there that run and get oil out of the ground or gas out of the ground. So we bring that data back in, we crunch it and present it to our other systems. So whether it be like production accounting or the engineers, so that they can view and analyze that data to make decisions on how to get more oil or gas out of the ground. And part of that, the supervisory control part, is we allow them to actually control some of those oil wells too. And in emergency situations, we can shut down well sites remotely. So that's the down and dirty, at least.
So is it safe to say that you're familiar with IoT devices?
It's very safe to say that.
Or do you just have people that randomly go out to the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, and say, hey, the reading on that is 300. Let's send that back to Garrett today.
Yeah, so those would be the jobs that I'm actively killing. So if that's your job, I'm your bad guy.
Finding better uses for those individuals.
Fantastic. That's right, repurposing.
I bet they're actually probably appreciative of you for that, because now they get to do fun things.
Yeah, and that is old school oil and gas, right? You have a few guys that run around, read numbers, write it down in their little log book, and they bring it back in the day and type it in the computer. So super inefficient, takes a lot of man hours to do that. And I mean, there's a lot better ways to run your field.
So do you design the systems that kind of take that data, or are you just strictly the guy that brings the data, then crunches the numbers?
So most of the SCADA systems out there, there are no out-of-the-box solutions. So you're designing and developing something very particular for your own company. So, and every company operates slightly differently. So for us, we design and build everything from scratch, and everything that's in the field, is programmed from scratch also. So everything's all custom.
All I hear is an opportunity to go build an out-of-the-box solution that fits some needs. Is that? I mean, I'm kind of surprised there's no out-of-the-box right now here today.
And the only reason I think there isn't is I don't think there's a lot of companies out there that want to do that. There are some smaller companies and some cloud solutions out there to where you can just give them access to those devices, and they'll give you a basic little SCADA system that you can work with. But for the most part, I mean, engineers are after different things, and then your goals are different for each area as well.
Yeah.
So
I've got some research to do on SCADA. So that's SCATA?
SCADA, so
ATA.
supervisory control and data acquisition.
Okay,
The and gets its own A.
that's awesome.
So yeah, I think Garrett, everybody that we know, once they watch this, are now going to understand what you actually do.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that'd
Well,
be great.
Well, they're not that smart.
question
So
for you.
Yeah.
My
My wife is still trying to figure it out as well. So.
Yeah. Same here. It's amazing. The first episode, we found out that Tristan was Rocket Man and I was a high-tech plumber that worked in similar industries like you, Garrett. So, just come up with simple things.
Okay.
You're the guy that gets the gasoline ready for you before you actually see it. Yeah. Gas pump guy. Free gas pump guy. So, Garrett, question for you. Because you're in SCADA, I assume you've gone through some software selection projects.
We
Can you
have.
talk about some of the things you've gone through and what the experience was like?
Yeah. So I would start with the first one that I did, at least with my current company. We're looking at doing a new lift optimization software. So we had one that had been in the field for 15, 20 years. Guys were very comfortable with it, but the company running it, they're ready to shut it down, and they weren't producing any more updates for it. So it's time for us to move on. And so they presented us with a new selection. They said, you can just upgrade to this. We'll provide all the tools for that. And then we went to the market also to see what other selections there were. So this was a lift optimization platform. There's probably 3 in the market that really give you everything that we need. And so
when you talk lift optimization, I think probably most people think of an elevator lift. Probably not. But talk about what a lift optimization software is.
Okay, so if you think about most oil in the ground, it doesn't flow up like you think in the movies. So like on all the movies, especially the old ones, right, where they drill a well and the oil just comes spraying up and it covers everybody. Well, that's really not how it works. So you're drilling into some kind of reservoir, and for the most part, that oil needs help coming to the surface. And so there's a few different tools that most companies use. So everybody knows like the little rod lift that used to go to West Texas, and they're all over the place, and they go up and down, little horse. So that's the biggest one. They call that a rod pump or a pump jack. And so that one is called artificial lift. And so it's using a little rod to suck up oil. There's other things. There's an ESP, which is very common. They're a little pump that they put down hole, and it just pumps up as much fluid as it can until most parts, till it runs out of juice. So a lift optimization software will allow you to see, especially for the ESPs, how much power they're using, because these things use tons of electricity. One of our fields, I think our electricity bill is close to $5 million to run these. So yeah, but they pump thousands of barrels of fluid.
Yeah.
Whereas like a little rod pump, they're going to pump around 1,200 barrels, when we're talking thousands through an ESP. But the biggest thing with those is you're pumping a ton of electricity. You're running that thing as hard as you can without damaging it. And so these optimization software, they'll tell you exactly where that perfect number is. How hard can I run this without damaging this device? Because if you do damage the device and burn one out, it's about $250,000 to go down there and get it and put down another one. So big money, and you have downtime on top of that, where you're not producing oil. So those for the ESPs, that's the biggest one. Power consumption, how fast can I run that motor? And then it'll give you some feedback on, hey, we're starting to see that motor blip, or you're running it too hard. Same things with the rod pumps. I mean, they'll tell you as it goes up and down, you'll wear the actual casing in the ground. And so they print out these really funky little cards where it looks kind of like a square, or it's supposed to look like a triangle or a rectangle. But a lot of times they start looking like a weird cow or something. And based on that picture, that something's going on downhole. And so, yeah, these software selections, they're expensive, but they are supposed to give you some kind of insight or foresight into what's happening down the hole, and let you know if there's going to be some failure.
Yeah. So
That's
when
awesome.
when you're evaluating these different solutions, right? I mean, what kind of moved the needle for you guys, or how was your experience there to kind of down select and make that decision of one over the other? Like what was that ticker for you guys?
I think we really had about 3 criteria. So, I mean, one being price. We're a smaller company. We have a saying where if you stack nickels, then eventually you'll have some dollars. So, yeah, it's a small company mentality, but it works well for us. And so,
like that.
Price was big, and you can go and get some super pricey platforms here, but if you're not going to use all those tools that it provides, it really doesn't make sense. So one was price, 2 was scope of the tools, because it's not me that's going to go and look at these things. It's going to be our engineer. So we had to decide, what our end user is looking at and what they're actually going to use. Because if we give them a whole bunch of tools that they're not going to look at and we're paying for it, that's not a good deal for us. And 3, how well does it integrate with the current systems that we already have? And so the one that we actually ended up choosing, it integrated natively with our SCADA system. It used all the same back end communications with it. And we were already somewhat familiar with the back end, so that helped a lot. I would say it's pricier than we would have liked. And I think that's probably the main sticking point now with us. But our users, for the most part, they use the majority of the features in it, and they're not asking for a whole lot of additional features.
Yeah, no, I like that, because really you talk 2 big things there. You talk utilization of the tool, because oftentimes people, and this is just any software solution, is they'll buy something really expensive because it's the best and biggest and baddest, but they won't have heavy utilization on, they'll leave 80% of the functionality to never get used. They're only using 20% of it. And so that's one thing. And then I like that your guys' approach on, yes, it's a little pricier, but it sounds like, from a value standpoint, because of the way it integrated, you guys are trying to maximize that ROI. So that value piece comes in there. So I like that.
Yeah. And on my end, you still got to administer that software. So, if you're going to have to go and hire a bunch of guys just to go administer something new, that's a net loss for us as well.
I was going to ask, how many people support that software, like from an integration standpoint and on the back end?
So there's 4 of us that support all of our SCADA systems, optimization systems, measurement systems, and anything that integrates.
Okay.
So it's not a large group, and we got about 15,000 wells or so underneath us.
So the lift optimization, it's taking all these data points from the devices in the field, and then it's spitting out, when do I need to do something proactively, or something's going wrong, so I need to go out now. Is that what I understood?
Yeah. So, there's varying levels of this too. So yeah, you do have a device in the field that's programmed just to keep things running, and it'll spit out when there's an alarm. There's also ones that they're coming out with now that have some machine learning in them. I wouldn't say AI, but it's more machine learning, to where if I start seeing this happen, I'm going to make an adjustment here, and it'll start doing its own adjustment out in the field without any user interruption, right? But they can also make, suggestions to the user saying, hey, I think you need to adjust here. Do you agree? And send it or not. And so, there's varying levels of that for sure.
So many questions that I want to go into on that, because that's actually fascinating.
Yeah, it's really neat.
That's a product.
Slightly dangerous.
Yeah, that's true. There's good and bad to it, right? Do y'all evaluate the productivity improvements that you'll get from it, or have y'all implemented any of those ML pieces?
We have not.
Okay.
And there's a little bit of bureaucracy involved there.
Yeah, for sure.
Do we want the engineers, in our corporate office to look and run that stuff and agree on those, or do we want the guys in the field, that's their job to do those? And what kind of knowledge level is there, on each side? So we haven't. It's been talked about, but you got to find some buy-in for those kind of options.
It's interesting because we had Sandra on a while back, and she talked about some of these projects. So there's the sales side where we just talked about, which is figuring out which product to go with. Then there's hey, we've chosen the product, now we got to implement it, and all of these decisions And I thought it was really interesting because they had a review board basically where, hey, you want to change something or you want to do something, it's got to go through this review board of business subject matter experts. And I thought that was unique.
I think that's change control.
Yeah.
It's how the larger companies want to call it. It's your idea. Everybody's got to come to an agreement and a time for you to do that. And if somebody says no, you're not going to do it.
Yeah. I'm curious because you saw 3 vendors. I'm curious, did anything stand out to you in how any of them ran through the process, or did they all kind of do the same thing?
I mean, they were all pretty similar. So there were some, for the most part, the things that differentiated them were the back end or the actual technology.
Okay.
But for the most part, they all, they presented the same way. They gave us the same, we can give you 90 days to POC this. We'll give you the software to look at. But either way, on our end, it takes a lot of work just to get those things up and running. So a POC isn't always great for us.
Yeah. So maybe one more question on top of that, and you may have an answer and you may not. And if you don't, that's fine. You can tell me later after you've thought about it. Is there anything you would have loved to see the vendors do differently, or love to see them do that they didn't to make it a better experience for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for us, I mean, one of the big things, anytime we're doing software selections, we have a pretty good network of peers that we reach out to and say, hey, have you guys tried this software? What was your experience with it? And I know every time you go to a vendor, they love to show you that screen of here's all the companies and these huge numbers of people that use our product. And maybe it's just some availability to those.
Yeah.
Like, hey, these are some actual names that you can reach out to, which I know that's hard to buy in, but.
Okay. No, that's cool. That's awesome. So one more question, and I think you probably have talked about it, but frustrations or limitations to current business systems. So can you talk about where I think you've probably elaborated on it from a selection of the new software, but maybe in the new software, or do you have any frustrations or limitations?
Yeah, I think some of the frustrations in that same software, I mean, are still price. I mean, we are currently going through a process saying, hey, do you think we can develop this ourselves in a system that's way cheaper? And what would that cost? And so we're kind of going through a workflow process. Do we use all the tools, that is here? And we're finding out there's a lot of tools that we're not using. A lot of the cool tools like the machine learning, we're not doing any of that. So why pay for all that, right?
Yeah.
And then we're also seeing, on the support back end, some of the support's being outsourced. And so it's getting harder to reach somebody on the phone when you do have a problem. And when you have a real issue where somebody can't see their wells anymore and you have no idea what they're doing in the field, that's an issue. And so we can't wait, multiple days sometimes for help on some of these things. And so we need, 24/7 support, and we need to be able to reach somebody on the phone really quick if we need to. And I think we're seeing some of those issues.
Yeah. How much did you say a downed pump is?
So if we burn a pump out, it's $250,000.
Yeah. And so if you can't access, that's crazy.
Yeah. But I mean, at the same point, there's a safety issue here too. I mean, if a pump, say, is running and we need to shut it off because somebody's going to go out there to perform work on it, then we're not able to see that well. We're not able to shut that pump off. Or we also have a more serious issue where if it's off and we don't have ability to control when it comes back on.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had, people hurt because they're working on a pump that's come on remotely while they're working on it.
Yeah. No, I'm also thinking back to, your oil and gas is an industry that I love. Power, pulp and paper. I used to sell a lot to the heavy industry. And one of the things I always think about is there's these systems, but there's also the downstream stuff where it's, hey, what's feeding that system and making sure that it's accurate too. So just bringing back good memories. So thanks for letting me relive some fun times.
Bring some nostalgia.
Yeah, there we go.
So I think, Garrett, maybe stepping away from, the specifics of your day-to-day today and kind of being more forward-looking. I mean, what themes are you kind of seeing or hearing in industry around technology that you feel like, may transform the industry, right? You've talked about a little bit of the ML action. Do you think that's going to grow legs? I know there's a lot of skepticism out there today around that, and it's probably some of the bureaucracy you speak of. So what do you, if you had a crystal ball, what do you see happening?
So I know that they're trying to include AI in a lot of the software that's coming out. I don't know about that yet. Machine learning for sure. We're seeing that move quite a bit, and really on the back end. So we're collecting data faster than we ever have. I mean, for us at least, we collect data, once every 15, 20 minutes, and that was fine. And now we're continually getting asked for more data, and higher resolution. So 1 minute data or 30-second data. And then on the back end, you're seeing like Snowflake and some of these larger companies offering solutions to do deep dive, analysis on that data, and putting a lot of that in the cloud and having remote access, anywhere. So I mean, from what I've seen is back end, high amounts of data that's being analyzed using machine learning, whatever, to really bring up some key events or key items to the users, and so that we can make decisions quicker, faster, and better informed decisions, right?
That's awesome.
It's funny. I had a colleague that basically helped me get my math degree because he's way smarter than me. But he went into like operations research, so he's a data scientist, big data guy. And at the time, right, I didn't have the foresight to think. I was like, man, big data. This guy wants to go look at these data sets. And but obviously he knew that he wasn't going to end up having to analyze all this data, right? It was going to go in this direction. And I just think it's fascinating. And again, just shows how much smarter he was than I ever was. So
I have one more really tough question. And before we get into some of the other fun stuff, because Tristan also has a really good question. What behind you is the coolest thing on your shelf, other than your enormous, awesome deer?
Buckler. It's a good question here. So, I mean, I got a couple of footballs signed by the 2011 OSU team that should have won the national championship, but BCS never gave us a shot.
Actually, when I came to watch Georgia lose, so yeah, that's
there you
pretty
go.
Football there.
So, yeah, I got Whedon on there and the failed Blackman and Randall.
Nice.
I guess Joseph Randall that never made it. And then so there was 3 Woods brothers that came through OSU. Rashawn being the most prominent name, but one of the lesser known names gave me that shoe.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, that's really cool. I would tell you my story of my first deer. I thought it was a doe, but it was not. I got my first button buck, but I don't have the rack because, slightly.
Why would you?
Why would you? So I've got a bigger question. Let's take it up a notch. Fantasy football sleeper of the year. Call your sleeper?
Wow, this is tough since we're in the same fantasy football league here, Tristan.
You should probably give him someone that you really don't think is good, just that far.
Right. So I have 2.
Okay.
Will Levis for the Titans.
Mm.
I think he's got DeAndre Hopkins. He's got Tyler Boyd. He's got Calvin Ridley. And that dude can sling the ball.
Bench press of like 5,000 pounds.
We'll see how long Calvin Ridley lasts.
Right. Well, same. I mean, they're all older receivers, but they were all studs at one point.
Yeah.
And then Rico Dowdle for the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, I know Zeke's back, but Rico was there last year. There's really no other proven running back except for Zeke. So I'd like to see how that goes in Dallas.
As I drink from my Cowboys cup, go boys.
With Ezekiel Elliott, you should probably get
Zeke on there.
Yeah,
that's okay. I'm gonna write those down. If that backfires, I know where to go.
You know where to find me.
Well, I love it. Well, Garrett, thanks for the time, man. Thanks for coming on. For the audience, as always, keep drinking that H2O, and really hope you enjoyed the show. Peace out.
Enjoyed it, Garrett.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.